Hello and welcome. My name is Christelle, and I am a Student Awards Associate at the Edmonton Community Foundation. I'm here with my colleague Dave, who is one of our grants associate. Today, we're really excited to walk you through everything you need to know about the Youth Grants program. We'll cover the two grants streams that make up the program, important dates, the requirements, and also give you some helpful tips to get you ready to submit your own application. So to give you a general overview, first we'll talk about the Young Edmonton Grant, including project ideas, requirements, and application timeline. And then we'll move on and discuss the Youth Voice Grant and look at examples of past projects that were funded through this grant and go over how and when to apply. Afterwards, we'll share some tips and things to consider when completing an application. And lastly, Dave will do a short walkthrough with information on how to access our application portal and complete your own application. So let's get started. Our youth grant programs includes two grants designed to support youth-led, youth-initiated, and youth-organized projects. First, there is the Young Edmonton Grants, or YEG as we like to call it. These grants are intended for young people between the ages of 13 and 24 and provides up to $3,000 in funding. Projects must be created, led, and organized by youth and requires them to partner with a registered Canadian charity or school. We also have the Youth Voice Grants for teams of students in grades 7 to 12. This grant stream provides up to $5,000 in funding to support innovative projects that raise awareness about a community issue, respond to a local need, or offer a creative solution to a challenge. Diving deeper into our Young Edmonton Grants program, the aim of this program is to help local youth bring their ideas to life. YEG funds projects that are initiated, led, and organized by youth ages 13 to 24. Youth should be based in Edmonton or the surrounding area, and these grants can provide between $500 to $3,000 in funding. This grant strongly supports youth leadership. That means the priority is given to applicants that clearly show youth involvement in the community. Examples of this could be things like mentorship, skill development, taking initiative, or being a role model, or building connections in our community. It is important to note that this grant program is not intended to support charities or agencies that provide programming or services for youth. Instead, it is intended to support youth residents who create their own projects or initiatives. Since 2011, ECF has granted more than $750,000 to support over 375 youth-led projects across the region. Here are some really great examples of past projects funded by YEG. Here's an example of Amplify's Artist Alley, which was an art exhibition and market. So this project supported 59 youth with free access to a professional art exhibition and market. This initiative helped young artists gain confidence, build skills, and even make their first art sales. This event drew more than 250 attendees and strengthened community connections. Another example of a project funded by YEG is this beautiful mural created by high school students who received a $500 YEG grant. The mural was part of a larger Henri Matisse-themed exhibition, with the final design selected collaboratively between the students and the gallery staff. For 2 months, students in grade 10 to grade 12 worked on all stages of the project, from the design to the final painting. These are some examples of past projects funded by youth. Other funded projects include a youth-led mental health symposium at the University of Alberta, a beach volleyball tournament, leadership workshops, and even summer programs for youth. If you have an idea and you think it's a good fit, you can email us and we can also provide feedback for you as well. So when you're applying for a youth grant, there are some things that you should consider. So first, you want to start with a clear idea. Your project should show strong leadership, things like teamwork, compassion, initiative, and community impact. Be clear about what you want to do and why it matters. But remember, it must be youth-led. Applicants have to be between the ages of 13 to 24 years old. Youth must organize and submit the application. It cannot come from a school or an agency. The committee that actually reviews the application is made entirely of youth, and they really value hearing directly from the youth who are leading a project. So make sure your voice and vision are heard because your voice truly matters. In addition to this, you also need to partner with a charity or a school. Your partner organization will receive the grant funds. They will need to complete an online endorsement form when you're completing your application. At schools, this is often done by a principal or someone in the main office. Another thing that you should consider is having a detailed plan and a budget. Your application should outline what the project is, what will happen, and how much everything will cost. And you want to provide as much detail as possible so the committee has a good understanding of what it is you want to do. You can request up to $3,000 in funding. Budget should include items such as food, venues, supplies, guest speakers, and rentals. In addition, you want to give as much details as you can about the items that you list in your budget. For example, if there's a food cost, you can break that down into how much the individual costs will be for each participant. It is also important to note the items that cannot be covered by this grant. This includes honorariums for youth, gift cards, scholarships, equipment purchases, t-shirts and swag items, and activities that are happening outside of the greater Edmonton region. And remember, this grant is intended for activities that are led and organized by youth. Educators and charity-led projects would also not be included. Here are some important dates to keep in mind for this grant application timeline. There are 2 intake times for this grant, with the first deadline being March 15th and the second being October 15th. So you want to make sure you get your application in before the deadline. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Dave, who will talk about the Youth Voice.
Perfect. Thanks, Christelle. Youth Voice grants are a little bit different. They are intended for innovative projects or activities that are initiated, led, and organized by young students enrolled in grades 7 through 12 in the Edmonton region. So that includes Strathcona County, Sturgeon County, Parkland County, Leduc County as well. We define innovation as a new or modified approach that has not been previously used in the community. And this one, for this particular grant stream, you can apply for up to $5,000 for your innovative youth-led project. It can raise awareness of a community issue, it can address a community need, or resolve an identified challenge in the community. Projects for this also have to be endorsed by both your school and by a community partner. I'll get into that a little bit later. To give you a couple examples, this youth-led cultural initiative at Ross Shepherd High School taught students in grades 10 to 12 how to make drums and drumsticks. It also gave the students the opportunity to learn the rights to perform traditional songs through the guidance of a community leader. The weekly drumming circles usually engaged between 10 to 15 students regularly. It fostered cultural pride, community, and leadership. It was supported by Indigenous student leaders, school staff, and elders, and the funding was used not only for the drum making materials, but also lessons and protocol gifts. This initiative was because it centered Indigenous youth and leadership. It also provided authentic cultural learning directly from community leaders. So the students created their own drums and drumsticks. They have already led school-wide ceremonies on days like the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Walk, and they've began preparing to mentor incoming students to help sustain the program into future years. An example of another project is this initiative. It was aimed to make menstrual projects freely and discreetly available in school bathrooms. It was led by students in a medical studies 20 to 30 class. They did things like research quality and cost of materials. They stocked bathrooms regularly and adjusted the program based on feedback from their peers. This program reduced stress for students, it fostered communities, and taught really valuable lessons in planning, budgeting, overcoming challenges as well. It continues on to this day, and even surplus funds and supplies were shared with elementary schools to help expand the access and normalize menstruation across the division. It was innovative because it empowered students to lead practical menstrual product access by placing supplies directly in school bathrooms. It removed barriers, reduced stigma, and promoted equity through peer-led action. So 2 examples of excellent projects that applied for this funding. Well, I have a little checklist for Youth Voice grants. So the first thing you need is a really innovative idea. So it needs to be a new take or a fresh take on a challenge that you've seen in your school or community. So think about how it helps others, or raises awareness or solves a problem in a creative way. Something like a bike-a-thon or a volleyball tournament are great projects, but it may not be appropriate for the Youth Voice stream because it's something that's been done before. This project also needs to be led by a team of youth between grades 7 and 12. It should have at least 2 students leading this group. You are going to need support from your school. So a teacher or a staff member will be asked to either endorse your project or send in a letter of endorsement. You can also work with a community partner, like a registered charity, a nonprofit, or a community group, and they can help with things like materials, mentorship, or expertise. These applications ask for someone like a registered charity or a school that we can write a check to, as well as an endorsement from additional partner. And the requirements are a little bit different, so I'd recommend you really read that application carefully. And like the Young Edmonton Grants, you're going to need a clear plan and a budget to help explain what you're doing, when, and how. And again, the more detailed the budgets are, the better it is for either stream. But again, emphasis on, for the Youth Voice, it's about creative projects that are going to make a difference. So if you've got a great idea and you want to try something that hasn't been done before, this is probably the grant to apply for. Annual events and programs might be more appropriate for a Young Edmonton Grant stream. If the idea has been done before, maybe try a different opportunity, and then want to be really mindful of the types of expenses we have. Christelle discussed this earlier and is similar for this. So no equipment purchases, no honoraria for the youth leading the project, that kind of stuff. And again, really make sure your plan is aligned with your budget and that you have really good detail for both. Our Youth Voice timeline is a little different as well. So there's just the one intake per year. Applications will open on September 15th and close on October 31st. The Young Edmonton Grant closes on October 15th for that intake period. And this is for funds will be released to either the school or the registered charity partner who is supporting this grant in the month of December. Again, a couple tips for these applications. Recommend that you do your applications early. It can sometimes be you can't submit your application until your budget is perfectly balanced, until you've answered every question you can. And if your endorsement has been completed by your community partner, sometimes that endorsement takes a day, or even sometimes a week. So start your application early, get it done early, and try to have your partner endorse the project earlier as well. So your teacher, your principal, a representative at the charity you're working with, it's really important. Both of these grant streams are reviewed in detail, one by a youth committee, one by another committee of the founders of the fund that supports the work. Both like a lot of detail in your budget and like to see something really well thought out. So make sure you break it down. Don't just say food for $1,000. You're going to want to say food for 200 people will be hot dogs, chips, an apple and pop. Estimated price is $3 per person, or whatever you think. You're going to want to break that out a little bit more. And again, ask for help. So Christelle and I get a little bit busy that week before deadline, but you can always send us a quick email at youthgrants@ecf.ca. We are happy to help you in your application process when we can make it work. I'm going to give a quick overview of our application system as well. It's on SmartSimple. So this is the Edmonton Community Foundation website. To access our portal, you're going to want to go right up here and click Application Portal. You can also access it on the Youth Grants page. Right here, if you want to hit apply, it'll take you to our portal. Now, our SmartSimple portal looks like this. You're going to want to hit this button down here to register if you haven't registered before. And you're going to want to make sure you select an individual, and you'll need to follow all the prompts very carefully. So this is what SmartSimple looks like when you've registered as an individual. You will see an opportunity to apply for student awards here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at studentawards@ecf.ca. This is where you'd click if you haven't opened a Young Edmonton Grant application up already. This will start a new application, and then you just click Save. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an application that I've already started. So I'm just going to click here to open my Young Edmonton Grant application. The first thing you want to do when you open a new application is hit the Save button down here. If you wanted to add someone like a collaborator, so if you're working in partnership with another leader on the project or another student, this is where you've done it. So I would just go in here, I'd hit the plus sign, And you see I've already added Christelle as a collaborator on this project, but I'd enter all the information, click save, click invite, and that'll send a quick invite to Christelle to register to our system so she can access this application. When you have a collaborator, only one of you can go into the application and make changes at one time. This application information page here has some information about the grant stream that you should review. You're going to want to go in and check these here on the endorsement page. And so this is where you have your school or your registered charity partner complete the endorsement for you. So we want to know a little bit, first of all, about how you heard of the program, why you've chosen to go ahead with this partner, whether it's because they're just your partner for they're your school, your principal, or someone at the main office, or as well, if you've picked a charity, it's nice for us to know why you've picked that charity. In addition, you're going to need to invite a partner charity to sign an endorsement. So this is where you would put your principal's name, a representative from the charity's name. You're going to want to add all of their information. You see I've already added Christelle down here. I click save, I clicked invite, and it sent Christelle a really big email just to remind them of the reporting responsibilities. And so lets the charity know or the school know that they'll be receiving funding for the project, that they have to also help support the reporting piece, and want to make sure that they're okay with all these responsibilities. So this is the page where you'd secure that endorsement. On the Youth Voice application, you also have the place to add a letter of recommendation from your community partner, which should be different than the person doing the endorsement. Our project application is pretty straightforward for people. So we want you to name your project. We want to know how much you want for your project. Whatever you input here will be loaded right into your project budget. We want to know a summary of your request. We want to know how much money you're planning to spend entirely. These are all relatively straightforward questions. There's either drop downs or date, or you'll have a word cap of maybe 200 words per question. I would recommend that you give yourself lots of time to answer these questions thoroughly, add lots of detail, make sure when we're asking for a timeline or plan that you just make sure you map it out and everything should make sense to someone who's never seen your project before. If you're having questions on your application, you can send us a quick email. On the budget page, we have more information about how to put together a budget, a couple of quick reminders of things that we don't normally support through these grant streams. There's a great video on how to build a budget in our system that we would highly recommend, as well as we've pasted a sample budget for when we're asking for how much, and then when we're asking for comments, some examples of what those comments can be. But to upload your own budget, you go ahead and hit this budget button. So I've hit that budget button. This is what the budget screen looks like. You can expand it or make it smaller as necessary. There's some more tips. Would recommend that you read them. And then this is where you can add information. So you need to list revenue. So what other money, how much money is required for this project? In this example, we have a little bit of money coming from the parent council. Maybe you had your own chip fundraiser sales at lunch or something, or you have ticket revenue you're expecting from your event. This is where you're going to want to add that information. You can add as many lines as you want. It should just match the types of money that's coming in to support your project outside of ECF. The amount that you requested on that prior tab will appear right here. Also, there's the expenses. This is where we're going to want you to break out each line of your expense. So again, you're not just going to want to say food for $600. You're going to provide a little more detail about what that is. It's pizza for 60 people. It's also a pop and chips and snacks for the session. You can break it out and add all that information here in the comments box. Each line of the budget should be pretty transparent, so it leaves no mystery on what you're applying for. If you're renting some items for your event day, this is where you're going to want to put rentals and then break it out. So you could say microphone rental, $300. It could be DJ equipment and speakers. We have seen other pieces that people need just to run their event successfully that day. The more detail you can provide and a list of the vendor of where you're getting it from is even better. So break out like food expenses and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, your revenue here should match your expenses perfectly. If you don't match your revenue to your expenses, you are not going to be able to submit your application. In addition, there's a question here about what funds will ECF support. It's good for us to know what parts of your project the Young Edmonton Grant or the Youth Voice Grant will be supporting, as well as do you have plans if the money doesn't come through? So if we're not able to fund it, are you going to go ahead with this project? That's good to know. If you are including honoraria for your project, it's okay if you're bringing in guest speakers, guest instructors, guest experts to your program. But if it's a youth leading the project, cannot apply for an honoraria to be reimbursed for their work. This would be honoraria for like bringing in an elder if you have some cultural protocols in place. It could be if you're bringing in a counselor to talk about mental health. But we don't want to see the people leading the project applying for honoraria. So this gives us a chance for you to tell us who's getting how much of an honorarium for how and for what type of commitment. And of course, there's always this additional budget notes if there's any things where we feel like we need a little extra information to understand about what you're applying for. But overall, this is what your application looks like. Always recommend that you click Save Draft. We do have autosave enabled, but it's not perfect. And sometimes even having a separate application on the side is helpful.
Before we wrap up this video, we also wanted to bring to your attention some of the other funding options that are available for youth through ECF. For example, we have the Student Awards Program, which awarded $1.6 million last year to 565 youth. Through this program, we have a range of different awards and scholarships that are available to students. For example, our largest scholarship program, which is the Belcourt Brousseau Métis Awards, which offers funding for Métis students in Alberta seeking to start or continue their post-secondary journey. We also have a range of music scholarships and the Hilltop Awards and other options that you can search and find if you visit our website listed below. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. We hope that this video was helpful and informative for you. If you have any other questions or want to reach out to us, please feel free to give us a call or send us an email. We're always happy to assist you in any way we can. Thank you so much.